All right, and we're back to the Python Institute, this time lab 2.1.1.19. And again, that means I'm on page number 19 in section number 2, grouping number 1, chapter 1 of the entire lab, or of the entire book. And it, again, over on the left-hand side, it gives me some instructions. It says, hey, in this, you should be familiar with more of the capabilities with the print function. Specifically, it talks about using the sep and end keywords with the print function. And what we want to do is we want to change this right here so that the output comes out similar to this. Now, if you're wondering how do I learn about the sep and the end functions, well, that actually is in the prior pages. So if we click previous, we'll start seeing a little bit of information about the various functions and how to be able to handle all of those. For instance, right there we can see that there's a reference to the end statement, and it talks about how the end statement works. So when we get into 2.1.1.19, hopefully we've read these prior pages and we have an understanding about how those functions should work, and now it's just a matter of joining them together. So in this case, let's see, we have 2 lines. The scenario says don't change anything in the second print function. So even though we want this as the output, this has to stay there. We can only make changes on the first line, so we can't just join them all together. Now, this is an interesting concern because a lot of times when you run the print function, at the end of every print function is a carriage return or a return key, which means that this puts it onto a new line. But over here we see, no, we want everything all on one line. So we have to do some interesting stuff on that first line there in order to stop it from moving over to a new line. Additionally, we see that we are printing multiple things right here, and they are all separated by a comma. And so we need to somehow change those commas, which currently are coming out as spaces, and we need to turn those into stars, specifically 3 stars. And that's where the sep and end key functions come in. The sep function specifically refers to separator. Forgive me, I am not an English major. That sounds right. Actually, neither of them sound right. But right now we have a separator right now, which is a comma, and it is being replaced with a space. And what we want to do is we want to replace those with 3 asterisks, stars. Or as some people referred to them when I was a child, a splat. So we want to use the sep function or sep keyword or separator in order to identify the separator that we want to be in there, as opposed to a space. And so we can do that by simply coming up here into our first print statement, because that's the only one we can edit. And we add in another comma, and then we use the sep keyword. And sep equals for us to be able to identify what the separator should be, and then we can go ahead and put in some quotes and put in our stars. Now if we run this, when it comes out, we'll see that no longer is it a space between programming and essentials and in. It's 3 stars. Now that could be anything I wanted. I could put in a $sign or percentage or whatever I wanted, 1 or multiple characters, and it will simply replace with what I type in. Since the scenario said that we wanted 3 stars, I'll put that back to 3 stars. And then lastly, we see that we're still printing on 2 different lines, and we want those to be on 1 line. In fact, not just 1 line, but we want 1 line with 3 dots at the end. Okay? Well, that's where the end keyword comes in. Now, remember, I said by default, it ends up with a carriage return at the end here, or CR, or new line character. That is the default end function or end option for a print statement, but if we use the end keyword, we can change that to anything we want. So just like what we did up here with the sep keyword by adding a comma and then sep equals, we can also add in a comma and equals and then type in whatever we want in quotes. Now they're saying we want 3 dots, so we'll go ahead and put in 3 dots. Now if I run it, instead of a carriage return, instead of a new line, it will print 3 dots. So let's check the output. And there we have it. Programming essentials in ... Python matches exactly what we were looking for over here.